young, I took a chance on life. When I was young, I stayed up most nights, and nobody knows, and nobody cares. You took my heart.
Don Jakeway. Oh, what's that? Hey, partner. Didn't have to jump this time. No, just off the step. Good to see you. You look good.
Moving down the empty cardboard stairway, looking on for a friendly face to see me. Oh, 'cause nobody knows, and nobody cares. You took my heart. You took my heart.
See, it could have been like what's it called, but these whole branches wouldn't have been there. It looks like they've been cut off. See, because I was up to about 8 to 10 feet from the ground. And then I would run over, and if I remember correctly, there was a hedge along here.
I'm gonna hop in with you, man.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hop in with you.
And if I had a metal detector, you'd find my old brass clicker over there because I threw it down, threw it away. I'm going to sit out there in the dark going.
L'autre côté de la...
C'est ce monsieur-là?
Oui.
Ouais.
De l'autre côté de la rivière.
Non, de l'autre côté de la chapelle.
The other
De
side
l'autre
of
côté de la chapelle.
Yeah. When
Ouais. Il
I,
a fait le tour, il est parti par là apparemment. Et
but I went that, when I jumped, I went that way.
il est parti par là. Et alors c'est alors qu'il a entendu les voix allemandes, il a sauté une chose, mais il y avait en fumée derrière.
Ah oui?
Il est tombé dedans.
Ah oui?
We knew that the Germans were in here somewhere. I also knew that after I'd gone by, the 101st Airborne had some troopers drop behind me, from behind us in here somewhere. And my parachute was still over there by the church. And when you land, the first thing you do is take your reserve chute off and your parachute off and just leave it.
Yeah.
Two farms.
Du long de la
That had to have
rivière.
been that other way.
Oui, oui, d'accord.
Because it wasn't what we call a dark night, but it was dark. But it was about, on my watch, like I was telling them, my watch actually said 20 minutes after 12, but there was an hour time difference between where we took off and where we dropped.
Yeah, and we had
So it would've been-
German time also, and summertime, and you know, and
It would have been 20 minutes after 1 o'clock.
yeah, because
when
in
I
England,
dropped.
Un peu partout.
There had to be quite a few of them because when I turned to go up along that path, there was a platoon-sized group of Germans walked by me. That's why I jumped over this little wall, slid down this. It wasn't real steep, but slid down this bank, fresh cow pile. And I had it all over my.
Il est tombé dans la bouse.
Dans le fumier.
Une vache, il a porté pendant 10 jours.
So after that, they just thought I was a cow out there. Maybe they finally left me alone.
On June 6, 1944, at roughly 1:10 a.m., Don Jakeway jumped into Normandy and landed at this church called St. Clair. He's here with Emile LaCroix and Don Jakeway. Don, what do you remember about this church?
Well, the most I remember about is when I come down and landed in the tree just beyond behind me here.
Yes.
And I was very frightened about being about 20 years old, about what was going to happen, getting caught in a tree. It was, like I say, the Germans were just over here, according to her. That's amazing that they weren't around the church. Anyway, I landed in the tree. I I came down through the tree, and I got my trench knife out, cut the splinters in mine. If I remember vaguely, on that side over there was like a hedgerow. I mean, growed up shrubbery and hedgerow along there. So I went over to that. Then I come out across the front, and there was a little path that went across in front of the church. Went down, followed it down, and come to like where the ditch is, where the thing is. And I walked, turned, followed the line of the plains, down about, I don't know how far I walked. I remember at least a half a mile or so. And come to a lane that came out close to the hedgerow where I was, and there was another path, and I turned, started up that path, and I heard somebody coming. I jumped over the wall, the stone wall, to get out of the way, and there was like a platoon-sized group of Germans walked by me. You could hear them. And from there on, it took me about 10 days to get back to my unit. But I did mingle in with some 101st veterans, and eventually run into some British veterans that had landed far from their original drop zone. They were supposed to have been down around Carrington and Caen. We were supposed to have been a lot closer to Shepton, St. Mary-Glise, St. Mary-Glise area. So anyway, when I was coming down, I looked out to my left, and I could see the fire burning. And I don't know what the distance is, but being up to about 500 feet, I could see that fire burning, and it turned out to be that it was St. Mary-Glise, a villa in St. Mary-Glise that was burning. So I knew I had to get basically in that area, plus the fact the planes were still droning over. And it took, like I said, it took me 10 days then to get back to my unit.
Emil, could you talk about what we learned from the two girls next door?
Yeah, quite we met a woman who said the same night they saw a lot of paratroopers jumping there. There were also lost people, probably for 101st, because the next morning his sister found two men coming to his house, two paratroopers, asking the way to go to Sainte-Marie-du-Mont. But Sainte-Marie-du-Mont was the objective of 101st. It's because we supposed it was the 101st people. Those people, those two paratroopers, where they learned how far they were, began to cry, and they stayed in the church for a while. But as Jake said, he met some 101st men the next day or more. We suppose it was the sticks who fought in this area at the same time. They were lost also because they were not supposed to go. But
we had specific drop zones when we took off. Studying our sand tables, we knew where our drop zones were supposed to be. But in the flight across fog, clouds, and those pilots wanted to get in here, get out of here. When the green light come on, you went out the door. So with the 101st scattered in with us, they were supposed to have been, like I say, about 25, 30 miles from us, probably down around Carrington, and even some British. Because if you remember the movie The Longest Day, it showed the British as like the father who was looking for his communion set in the water. That was here at St. Mary-Glise, around St. Mary-Glise somewhere. So
no,
we
it
were
was
all in here
supposed to
together.
be in the British area.
Yeah, but they weren't in the British area; they were in ours. Or we were in there. It don't make any difference one way or the other. We were all messed up. But when I got back to the 10th day, I remember we got on some small boats, crossed the Mederet River, went across, and as we got across, the Germans opened up fire on us, and we fought down through this apple orchard till we come to a large chateau down below us, and we dug in our foxhole, and we had quite a fight there for a while, maybe for about an hour, and after it quieted down a little bit, a German medic got up, put a wounded German soldier on his shoulders and started walking away. And in my squad, I yelled at them to hold their fire because you don't shoot a medic. We weren't murderers. We were military men. We wouldn't shoot a medic anyway, especially in the back. Well, he went down across the field, climbed over a stone wall into the chateau, and about 15 minutes later, we heard a noise coming up the road from the chateau area, and there were 61 Germans came up and surrendered. They were Wehrmacht, but they could have been Lithuanian. They could have been a variety of, and they were older. There were very, very few young people with them, and they came up, and of course we didn't know what to do with them. Having jumped in there, there's not that many of us. So there were 2 troopers marched those 61 back to the battalion command post. I don't know what happened to them from there on. Then I stayed in here in Normandy until July the 13th. We fought from Prito, Bellefontaine, L'Hillepui, Lessay. Stayed in Normandy until July the 13th. We fought from Prito, Bellefontaine, L'Hillepui, Lessay. And meanwhile, we would fly around the villages. And names to us old farm kids didn't mean anything if somebody pronounced them. We didn't think about it at the time. But I learned more about them after I was out in service. And I know where we went. I remember Prito, and it was easy. L'Hillepui, I can remember that one. And Bellefontaine, I can remember that one. And I can remember Marseille, because that's the last place that we stopped when we fought through Normandy. We went across the peninsula this way, back toward the east, and then down like the coast. You know where Comanche was? Mm-hmm. We went on down the coast that way. We leave in Marseille on July the 13th. And that was the first time in Normandy that we rode in a vehicle. It was the first time, I can't remember, ever being served a hot meal. Period. We lived on the K rations that they would drop into us. Except me, I scrounged, so I would trade my cigarettes and my lemon powder and my stuff that to the bullion because these guys put them in their mouth. And if you know what a bullion is, you get sick with it. They put them in their mouth and go, oh, we don't like that. I knew what they were. So I used to have a pocket full of bullion cubes. And I'd be traveling through, I'd get in these cellars and basically I'd find a carrot or a potato. And every once in a while we get up and I'd dig a foxhole and we were stopped. Get down in there, take my composition C2 out of my explosive, wind it, it'd be like a blowtorch. Put the water in your helmet and heat that water. I put my potatoes. I still got the knife at home, by the way, that I used. I put my potatoes and carrots in there and put them bullion cubes in there. Pretty soon the guy says, "Hey, Jake, you smell that?" And I said, "No, I don't smell nothing. I get that cow crap all over me. I don't smell anything." And they said, "Oh, what you cooking down in there?" And I said, "Oh, just a bunch of crap." I never did tell them about the bullion cubes until I went to a convention. The first time I seen them, they really cussed me out. They wouldn't you tell us what they were?
All right.
Oh, anyway, we got back to. We loaded us up, took us to Utah Beach, and we boarded a LSD, headed to Portsmouth, and the moment we got on that, it just started to pull out, and a buzz bomb went over us about 100 feet in the air, and you know those things are still okay as long as they're running, and when that thing shuts off, you want to head for cover. Well, it went on beyond us, and it came down in the channel. Should see the big crowd there that was waiting for us to welcome us back. When we first come, they didn't particularly care about us wanting to be there, but people got family acquainted, just like I was, like Camille in 1985. But Camille, different people I've come to know, Belu, so so forth here in Normandy. Henry Renaud, 1985. He gave me a medal at the town hall there in St. Mary Louise. I got his picture. Got a picture of him when he was 10 years old. So I have a lot of good friends in Normandy. Lucien Hosley, where we were going, Hill 30. He's got this big building out there where they got our names, all of our names engraved on it, and the only one of that bunch that's still living is me. That's what it looked like. So we're going over there, I think, this afternoon.
Going next.
They got our names engraved on it. That's on Hill 30.
Let's go to Hill 30.
I'm ready.
At Hill 30 in Normandy. Jake?
This is where we met Lucien Hosley, and when we came up. I could tell you the story about when we were down. I did not get onto Hill 30 until later. I wasn't here originally, but when I did get here, Tommy Horn had a foxhole right down at the end of this road, and we had a roadblock to that because the Germans were up in here. Here comes this 14-year-old girl pulling a milk cart, had a wounded paratrooper on it. And they came down the road. We were standing there talking about it, and this woman said, "I was that woman." Her name was Alexandria, and she said she had got one of the parachutes, made a wedding dress out of it, and got married. We got invited to their house. Anyway, right at this road that turns off down there, Tommy Horn had made this foxhole, and the Germans were back up in here, back in this side, and they started dropping mortars in. Well, when they dropped the mortars in, Tommy went and jumped in his foxhole, and here comes this guy, jumped in the foxhole with him. Tommy Horn says, "Get the hell out of there, this is my foxhole." He said, "Soldier, I'm General Gavin." He says, "Welcome to my foxhole, sir." That's the story Tommy told me. I said, "Did that really happen?" He says, "Yes." And he says, "I seen General Gavin at the convention one time." He says, "You're still welcome to my foxhole." But General Gavin says that he never had a foxhole here in Normandy, but they got one that shows where this was General Gavin's foxhole. And if he had a foxhole dug in, every general or commanding officer would have a ravine or something behind it where they could get out of the foxhole and get back through that ravine, and it's there. So when I wrote a piece of my book about it, he called me on the phone and said, "I didn't have a foxhole over there." And I said, "Sir, I'm not going to argue with a general. Go ask those people who dug that hole and put the sign up." And so this gentleman here, when we came, he took our names down. He engraved our names on the wall, and I can show you the names that he put on. There's
Lucien.
This is Buson. This was me. John Bloom was with us. Art Riedel was with us. Jet Stephen was with us. But anyway, I can show you.
Buson?
Yeah, I had to do Buson. And we had Tommy Horn, which he was with us. And that was it. Now, from my squad, or from my platoon, let's see, we got John Delury. We got Johnny Downs. Oh, and this is Bob Murphy here. Now, he wasn't in my outfit though. Bill Nation. Bill Sapp was an officer. Colonel Mendez. Colonel and I were just like this. And Shanley. Now, Colonel Shanley was the one that was in command of the people who fought here on Hill 30. And Hill 30 from here is back over in this direction. The Germans were all up in here. That's where they were fighting, and that's where the 14-year-old girl come down this way with the cart pulling that paratrooper, wounded paratrooper. And we were standing there talking about it. Like I say, this lady was standing there. She says, "Well, I was that girl." And she'd got one of our parachutes, made a wedding dress, got married in it. So we went over to the house, had a long date. I got their picture at home of all of them together, but I think she's in a nursing home now, someone told me. But when we came over here with Maylou and everything, we went across right down this, not too far down this way, there was a road to go out. Then right across the street was a gate in this field where there was two great big immense trees. When we got here in '85, they were cut down and the stumps are still there. We took a metal detector and dug down. We dug out the empty shells and cartridges. They were down about a foot too. As that knocked out that German half-track in that field. And then of course the wine cellar that I was telling you about, when we went, if I remember correctly, this road to go around and circle around, it just goes around this elevated ground. It's not really a hill if you look at it, not like you would imagine, but it's, if you could drive right around in a circle and you come right back out down here. It did when we was here before, and I assume it still does. That's where we stopped, and the old first sergeant says, "Stop the van." We get out, walk in this farmyard, says, "I know right where the wine cellar is, Ralph Buson." You remember Buson, don't you, Camille?
Yep, I do.
Sure you do. He was good. And anyway, we got out, and that farmer was, his eyes about that big around. We had our red jackets on, our caps, and we all come walking in there. And Buson's right over here it is. It goes in there. Here's this big, about 10-foot kegs full of Calvados. And if you ever drink Calvados, I use it to start fires with. It could be raining and I could pour the Calvados on that fire and take right off. So this man here, one thing I remember, we had Cafe, his wife us in, and we had custard, right, and coffee in his house when we were here in 1985. And I missed him because he was our guest speaker in Tampa when we had the last convention of the 508. And I missed it.
2001. C'était en 2001 à Tampa.
Yeah.
Florida.
He has been a good friend. We write back and forth. He'll write in French. I get it translated, and I write back in English anyway. And then he translates it back. So we don't do it often, but we keep in touch, don't we?
Alors là, je ne comprends pas. Ça doit être bien.
Oh yeah.
Certainement.
But in my brief lifetime, this thing, I look at all you guys, and it's so emotional to know the friends that you have strung out around the world because of the military. And most all of these that you see here today are the ones that you met after the war. I never knew these people during the war. Right. Well, I can just say that starting with July the 3rd, I remember we were approaching the Hill 131 on a crossroad, and there was no roundabout through it, but just ordinary crossroad. And either 88s or mortars came in at that crossroad, and that's where Paul Potter, who I enlisted with, was hit. He became deaf, was shipped home medically. After he got hit, we went on, I would say, another maybe 100 yards, and we set up a line for the night, like a bivouac area. That's when all of our lieutenants and officers got together and they planned whatever the strategy they were going to do. It was the next day. It was my understanding that we were approximately 1.5 kilometers from Hill 95. That was my understanding. And the next day we get up, we were briefed that our orders were to attack across the field and toward the hill where all this woods and this looks absolutely so familiar to what I'm talking about, because I remember the woods so well, how it went, and the thing kind of went down like that when we first started in it, because we were looking to see where we were. There would have been like a small hedgerow that we got through. We walked through a little area like this, and over another little hedgerow, out into the field, and we got out into the field about no more than 10-15 yards, and we got open. The artillery 88 started coming in, the mortars started coming in, rifle fire, machine gun fire. That's where I lost like 5, 6, 7 men out of my squad. What I had done is, instead of coming back, I run to the right, got to a hedgerow, and when I got there, there was Deloach and Blair and Tanner, and then I think beyond there was myself. Then behind me was Vashon and Medford, and they had all got shot. And I assumed that Blair was dead, but apparently he wasn't, because he found his dog tags up around St. Lo later on. But anyway, during the course of that fighting, when I got into the hedgerow, I could see a machine gun firing, say from maybe about 100 yards down into the edge of the woods. And I emptied my clip, 8 rounds from my clip into that, and it quit firing. And immediately after that, it got real quiet. And I'm laying in the hedgerow, and I can look back, and there was a mound. I make an estimation it was about 15 to 20 feet high. And I knew I had to get back up over that. And finally, I made up my mind to go, and I scrambled up over it, dropped down into a little ditch area, and started back up through the ditch. That's when I found the guy wounded, the paratrooper wounded, and he absolutely refused to let me take him out. I tried everything I could to take him out. I even told him that I was just trying to give him hell, and he said, "I'm not going, leave me alone." You know, I tried to pick him up, he wouldn't let me do it, and I had to leave him. And you don't do that. And I went on back to my area and reported in, told him that I seen this guy down there, and I'm assuming that they went down. But the next day that they were talking about, they found out that some of the bodies had been looted or whatever, and Blair's body was gone, apparently, and they found his body down around St. Lo. They found his dog tags. I know it's been a long time ago, but I have fresh memories of losing the guys that I trained with.
That's 29. I know the right, sir.
31.
One up, Jake.
Just 31, he said.
One straight.
Keep going up that road.
Keep going straight.
Right here.
Yeah.
John Jay. Like I said, John Jakeway was an outstanding athlete in the state of Pennsylvania. And when we were at Blanding, Florida, he's one of the originals with me. When we were at Blanding, Florida, we never took a pass from camp. What we would do is go up to the gymnasium, play basketball, or around the basketball court. So I was up there, I'd go up there every time I could get a chance, and pretty soon here comes like John, and then here comes Tom Ekoff, and here comes Lyle Cumler, and here comes Coltrane, and here comes Dougherty. And we got in there, they said, "Hey, they have a regimental tournament coming up, why don't we put a team together?" Well, Tom Ekoff and I think Dougherty probably were from Evansville, Indiana, basketball. They were about the limit of the height that we could have in there. And so we started the basketball team, and we got in a tournament. We won the regimental basketball championship, and never lost a basketball game until we got into Belfast, Ireland. We used to play in Londonderry and Navy places and play high schools. And anyway, story about John. One night that we had a fellow named Cantrell, and they didn't get along. So they stripped their blouses, went out into the out into the company street, and Cantrell knocked Jude Fine down. I'm standing there watching him. He gets up, he knocks down Cantrell. He did that 3 or 4 times. Cantrell gave up. John Jude Fine gave him his hand, raised him back up, and he said, is it over? And the guy says, it's over. And they were very close friends after that. For some reason they didn't get along too well. Well, John, unfortunately, when John was captured, it took, according to the records, I just happened to look at him, and I knew it had to be after we'd left Normandy that we knew that, and it was August 8th before they knew that he had been captured along with Farmer, and on the route back to the concentration camp or wherever they were going.
Jake, real quick, he was captured at 95, Hill 95?
Pardon?
Was he captured at Hill 95?
No.
No? Where was it?
See, it doesn't tell.
Okay.
He got killed on the 8th, but he was in the that convoy going into the German truck.
Okay.
And our planes come over and strafed the convoy, and it killed him and Farmer, both of them. So, according to the records that they have here, they're saying August 8th. And that's possible, because I don't know. When they get captured like that, we lose track of them, you know. Of course, that was about the time, see, I was wounded, that's 1944. That was just prior of our getting prepared, ready to go into Holland, to make the jump into Holland. That's when we found out. So they have August 8th on there. It's probably right. I couldn't tell you for sure. But I write to his sister, and she sent me information about where he played basketball and football, was a tremendous athlete. And he was the kind of a guy, you could talk with him, easy going, but he's the type of guy you don't make him angry. Because they just go out and strip their blouses, and I just stand and watch them because I want to get involved in it. But anyway, John was one of our originals along with me. And like I say, I think there's 4 of us originals from Camp Decoa landing that are still alive. Art and I hit it off pretty well together. Pretty good. He was a good athlete. We liked to run. He was a track star. I'm a 100-yard sprinter, but he was a distant runner, believe it or not. And he let me, we'd get in a race, I'd take off because I'm a sprint runner. I'd take off. Playing football, you have to go quick. Well, he passed me, he's winning to rub it in. Well, he became our radio man. I took a picture of the radio that you saw up in the display. He carried the radio and stayed with the officer or the platoon sergeant, so that if we get into combat, they would call for artillery or communicate. He had a way about him. This guy was a fan of Noxzema. You know what Noxzema is?
Cold cream.
And he always had a jar of Noxzema. And everybody would say, hey, let us use that. And he says, no way. He'd never let nobody use, and he wouldn't even tell him where he got it because it was being sent to him. So one day I asked him, I said, and he and our friends, I said, how about you use your Noxzema? He said, no. He wouldn't even let me use it. But when I wrote my book, the brother and the sisters of Art found my book. And I have a picture in there where we went to Washington, D.C. together with Sides. Let's see, there was Curtis Sides and Dick Owen, Furtaw, myself, and we have that picture in the book, and they saw it. Well, we've been getting together now. I go up there to Brighton, Michigan. They come down to my home, and they have a nice home down in the Carolinas. We go down there and visit. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to place a flag here because I'm pretty active with the family, and I'd like to place a flag here. That would be a tremendous photo for them. I can't Art was about 5'7". We always could he was. See, the average height of the Airborne when we went in 42 was about, you could be no taller than 6'2". Now it's 6'7". So when you walk out on the drop zone with these guys and you're always talking to them, you say, "Hi there, young man, how you doing?" You know. But we would, Art and I associated. We'd maybe go on leave together, have classes together, and when I met the family, they're unreal. What a beautiful family they are. And they never knew exactly what had happened to Art. But as we went to Hill 95, we were ordered to attack the hill. And we went into the platoon. There's 24 of them just in my area. We went into the field, and after we got into the field, we realized it was mined. And there was a Hitler Youth Division setting up on the top of the hill. And they opened up fire with machine gun fire, mortars, artillery, 88s. And I turned parallel to the hill and run for the closest hedgerow that I could get to. And in the course of doing that, they killed in front of me Deloach and Belair and Tanner. Then it missed me, and they got Vashon, and they got Medford, like right in the row behind me. And how I got through there, I have no idea. So as I told the family, Art was a real fine, intelligent young man. And in the course of running along there, he was still carrying his radio. And the platoon sergeant, of course, at that time would have been behind. So I don't know whatever happened to Riddle. But I lost Art there, and I told the family that how close we were. And, when we get together, we have we have a real good feeling. It's hug, kiss, and talk, and at least now they know what happened to their brother. But he was a good friend. I like to put a flag because I have to associate myself with him. All right.
Would you mind doing that? Would you mind helping put the
Sure, no problem.
I saw some cross and some.
It's hard to believe. 67 years have gone by. Thanks to this guy here with the camera, who organized this trip. And the guys come over and bent my arm and everything, said, "You're going back to Normandy." I said, "I don't know whether I can do it or not." So I asked my son, Kim, this is my son, if he would go, I would. This guy, Mark Easton, organized this trip, but he has it along with his friends. I'm sorry if I miss any of them. George, Gary, guys, and then my friend that came down, and Andre, and then my friend that come over from Holland, Camille Rietzema. I could go on and on. When I got here, it was unbelievable to meet these people that I've come to know after the war. I have visited Beek. Camille has been to my home. Anyway, it's just been a very, very, very fantastic trip, and I want to thank Mark Easton from the bottom of my heart for all the trouble he goes to. He drives, he knows where to go, he plans the meals. So I promoted him from private up. He's up to Lieutenant General now, is that something like that?
PFC.
And I want to thank him from the bottom of my heart. Oh, Emile LaCroix from Belgium. These are people I've come to know and come to love. And it's been a fantastic journey back, and I can't believe I'm standing here. I was 18 when I enlisted. I'm now 89. So I thank God that I can tell you some stories, probably about 40 different times, that I have no reason to ever be here unless I believed that someone was looking down on me. And when I went home, I promised, if I got home, I'd devote myself to taking care of the handicapped, the senior citizen. I worked with the schools, on the village council, on and on and on. I serve a lot in my community with the Kiwanis, and I'm a commander of the American Legion Post. We put on military funerals. So it's something that every day I am grateful. But to have lost these young guys at the age of probably like I was, they were probably 20, maybe 21 years old, and they're gone. And they're buried here in this beautiful, beautiful cemetery. If you call it cemetery. Oh, okay.
Pass the flag into the ground. Flag next to it.
Yeah, we were attacking Preto from behind. Well, I think it was the first company, platoon was on the right of us, and we were behind, and there were some mortars coming in, and probably even 88s. I don't have any idea what they were, but blew a big hole in the ground, and as I was firing my M1 at that time toward the houses and things where the firing we thought was coming from. And as I walked up to the hole, there laid Walter. He laid with his back to the hole like this, and the hole had water in it, and it was up around his knees, and he was laying there just like he's asleep. And again, I think maybe the concussion killed him. He definitely was dead. Now, he was probably one of the shortest guys in our company, but he was a fire. He had red hair, and you didn't mess with Walter. and when you have, like you say, when you have guys like this, and you're trying to talk about them now, thinking about that's 67 or 68 or 69. In fact, he was one of our originals. We started in October 1942 at Camp Toccoa, Georgia. So he's one of the original kind. And of the originals, there's four. There's Furlong, original Furlong, there's Tom Ecoff, Johnny Downs, and myself. That's still alive from the original 1942 team.
Don Jakeway. Once again. In 1985, I met Henry Renat in the townhouse here in St. Mary Lease. He awarded me a medal at that presentation. I have a photo. I was in my home in 1985. I've been back 1985, 1991. And I've taken this awesome journey only because my friend Mark Easton from New Albany, Ohio, made it all possible. We collected money to bring, I think there's 19 total of us here. And I want you to know that Bailu, Thomas, the friends that I've come to know here, they know that I'm very happy over my life, and I thank you so very much. From Neil Richard of Holland, Neil LaCroix from Belgium is here to greet me, and I sure do appreciate it. Thank you so very much, everybody.
Vous pouvez voir dans l'aube du matin combien fièrement flotte notre étendard dont les étoiles brillent dans un ciel d'azur, joyeux sur les remparts. Son ondulation fière, l'éclat rouge des bombes éclatant dans les airs.
Don Jakeway, 508th Parachute Infantry Regiment, 82nd Airborne Division. Carl Beck, 501st Parachute Infantry Regiment, 101st Airborne Division. George Kazamaki, 101st Airborne Division. Jim Martin, 506th Parachute Infantry Regiment, 101st Airborne Division. And Robert Wright, 101st Airborne Division. Would all other World War II veterans that I did not name please rise as you are able to be recognized.
I don't know about you, but I am frankly in awe of our veterans from World War II, especially those who survived D-Day and are back with us today. Thank you. From the bottom of our hearts, thank you. For those of us who grew up in the wake of World War II, these were our action heroes. We did not know video games. We did not know that in our lives, but we knew the story of these men. And to be here in their presence is especially awe-inspiring for me. I can remember when I went through jump school at Fort Benning in 1966. Legendary were the jumps at Normandy in the dark of night, shortly after midnight, by the 101st Airborne and the 82nd Airborne. Legendary were the assaults on Omaha Beach, Utah Beach. And legendary was the battle that we honor today, the battle at Point du Hoc. I can identify with then General Rudder when he came back to this site after 10 years, and he looked at his son and said, "I don't know how we did it." I look at this site today, and I don't know how they did it. And so it is proper and fitting for us today to save this site or celebrate its saving. And so many things happen in war. They're the stories of individual people. First of all, there was Colonel Earl Rudder, who transformed the 2nd Ranger Battalion into what Lynn Lamel, who I got to meet before he passed away a few months ago, called a first-class outfit. Way before the Navy SEALs, way before Delta Force, way before Special Forces was the U.S. Army Rangers. And 67 years ago, they showed the world what they could do. They took almost 70% casualties. They took this point. They wiped out the 5 German 155 millimeter howitzers that would then possibly have threatened the invasion at D-Day. And they held their positions without much food or water or hardly any communications at all for 2 days and 2 nights as they closed off the German roads so that the Germans could not transfer back and forth and compromise D-Day. They did all that. And it seemed as if it was a matter of course for them. Of course, it was so exceptional. General Rudder was wounded twice and refused medical evacuation. Was honored with the Distinguished Service Cross. Lynn Lamel, a staff sergeant with what he told me was Dog Company. He said, "Don't forget to mention Dog Company." We would now call it Delta Company, but he called it Dog Company. So I have fulfilled my commitment to Lynn Lamel, who passed away a few months ago. He was 91. But as a young staff sergeant, he climbed these hills and went and found about a mile away the 5 German 155 millimeter howitzers and destroyed their effectiveness. Omar Bradley said that the assault on Pointe du Hoc was the most dangerous mission of D-Day. Writing much later about D-Day, Stephen Ambrose, the great American historian, said that there were 2 men responsible for the success of D-Day, Dwight Eisenhower and Lynn Marmel. So, we are honored today, those of us with the American Battle Monuments Commission, to be here with you to save a site in American history that has become iconic. This would not have been saved, however, without the leadership of a young man from Texas who won the Earl Rudder Award as a student at Texas A&M, and who came to the Congress and would not participate in the losing of Pointe du Hoc, would not allow it to shift out into the English Channel, would not allow this bunker over which we sit to be ultimately destroyed by erosion and the passage of time. His name is Chet Edwards. Chet Edwards was a member of Congress from Texas, and he's with us today. And it was his drive and his energy that made sure that members of the House and Senate who are with us today and represented today provided the money and the resources to make sure that we saved Pointe du Hoc. They say that this is a blend of the best of both worlds, American money and French ingenuity. But along the way, the American Battle Monuments Commission staff, led by Steve Hawkins, did a marvelous job. So we welcome you to Pointe du Hoc on this chilly day, never forgetting the people who made this day possible. Thank you.
When I was young, I took a chance on life. When I was young, I stayed up most nights, and nobody knows, and nobody cares. You took my heart, you took my heart. Moving down the empty cardboard stairway,